So welcome, our brilliant and beloved colleague, Anyika. We so appreciate your consistent leadership and solidarity. And as always at Setsi, we begin all things by giving thanks to our creator, by giving thanks to the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled, without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Anyika, can you please share a bit about your remarkable work with our listeners and viewers?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Anyika Mark. I am an executive member of Black Urbanism TO, and I'm also one of the pioneers of the Little Jamaica Community Land Trust that we're getting started this year, and we're hoping to really operationalize by the end of 2025. Black Urbanism TO is a nonprofit organization founded in 2018. And our mission has been to increase the participation of Black community members in community development to advance our social, cultural, and economic growth in the neighborhoods that we call home. And so that's kind of where we land in Little Jamaica. All of the people that are a part of Budo have a relationship with Little Jamaica, whether they live there, they've worked there, they have really strong relationships with Black business owners in that neighborhood. Or have family that have like grown up in the neighborhood. And so there's that legacy generational factor of course, Little Jamaica being a historical Black community. And I think being a touch point and an epicenter for a lot of Blackness, a lot of Black culture, a lot of Caribbeanness, a lot of Africanness. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of where we've started our work. And I guess let me give some backstory as to like how we actually end up in Little Jamaica. So Romaine Baker and Dane Williams, they're the co-founders of Black Urbanism TO. They went to the university, I can't remember what university, but they went to university together. And so they met there, but they also had this relationship with Eglinton, right? And so when they come back after university, they go to their old neighborhood, somewhere that they love, and they just want to check it out, see what was going on. And this was, right in the heart of the Eglinton LRT construction that we know is still ongoing and still has no end date as to when it will be completed. And so the time that they come back, this is about 2017, 2018, we're talking, it is an absolute destruction zone on Eglinton. There are rods, pipes, debris. There's no parking access. There's no bus access. You cannot see Black people's businesses. It's boarded up from like the top up all the way to like the building height. And so they were like, oh my gosh, this community, like our community is leaving. Like we need to try to document it in some sort of way. And so they went on, they started talking to some of the Black residents and Black business owners in the neighborhood. And they realized that there was still so much determination to be there, that people had place-made themselves in this neighborhood on Eglinton, and that they didn't have any intentions to leave, that they had strong passions to still stay there. And we're also talking about businesses that have been there for years, like decades, right? 30, 40 years. People have lived and worked in this neighborhood. And so they weren't ready to give that up. It was still a pretty thriving ecosystem behind all of the construction that was going on. And so they were like, okay, well, instead of figuring out ways to document it, let's get involved in the organizing. Let us begin to honor this determination, this resiliency as young people coming back to neighborhoods that we love. Let's figure out ways that we can organize Black community members to essentially save our neighborhood. And so one of the things that we did is we started to do a consultation series. And so there was a plan that the city of Toronto had put out, a planning framework study about Eglinton. In that study, it had no mention of Black people whatsoever. There was no conversation about Black business owners. There wasn't any mention of Little Jamaica at all. And so what we did was we took that report and we decided to do the community consultations as to what it was that Black folks wanted to see on Eglinton and what they envisioned for the future, what they thought about, developments and whatnot. And so from those conversations, we were able to create two really foundational reports of the future of housing in Little Jamaica and New York Southwestern, and then also the Black business conversation on planning for the future of Black business owners and residents on Eglinton. Those two reports combined really set the tone for where we all as a community want to go. And I think it was also a strategic move to write a report because reports, they provide credibility to the work that you're doing, right? And so now we can bring these to our city officials. We can bring these, to different levels of government, to, stakeholder partners, institutions, funders, to be like, this is really important work that we're doing. We need to figure out ways that we can preserve Little Jamaica in some sort of legislative policy way. How can we do that? And so that was kind of when we connected with Councillor Josh Matlow, who was really pivotal in putting forward a motion to essentially do just that, preserve Little Jamaica. And so that motion kind of evolved into this larger conversation of creating a cultural district plan, which of course Jay Pitter Placemaking has pioneered, finished, and I believe the report is up online on the city website. And this report was meant to really capture not just like the brick and mortar of what Little Jamaica is, but also the cultural heritage, the essence, and the necessity for Black folks to place make in the neighborhoods that we've lived and worked in. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. And I think from that conversation, we've evolved further to be like, okay, cool, we have something on paper, we need to do some things in practice. And so the Little Jamaica Community Land Trust is in that vein where we need to make sure that Black folks have buildings to stay in. And so property ownership, community ownership, collective conversations of how we are actually strategically going to stay here is where the Little Jamaica Community Land Trust comes in. And it's been a community informed decision. We've been doing research on this for like 6 years. So every single one of our reports has mentioned land trust to some extent. And so this was a long time coming. This has been some labor of love, passion, and determination from the folks in our organization. We just got funding recently to do this, but since 2017, 2018, we've been doing this work at the side of our desks, volunteering out of the passion and love for our communities, not only because we have young family members, but because we feel so strongly about empowering other Black people and also honoring just the incredible work and resiliency of Black folks that are there now. Like if you go to Little Jamaica now, there are some really amazing, cool, funny, intellectual, like just incredible people. And so we do this work also to honor them because what they've given us in terms of a space of belonging in the city of Toronto, it's unmatched, it's priceless, And so this is only a small part that we can play in this larger Black ecosystem. And so that's kind of what the Little Jamaica Community Land Trust is going to be about.
It's absolutely incredible. What a remarkable journey and story of resilience, tenacity, self-determination. Truly inspiring. I appreciate your work and our beloved brothers that are on the front lines of community economic development, community finance, and essentially creating a space of belonging. So once again, I just appreciate all that you're doing for so many. It's a perfect segue to my next question. What's inspiring you right now? What has you curious, or what's keeping you up at night?
Absolutely. I think what's keeping me up at night mostly is, how are we actually tangibly going to stay in the neighborhood? And I think community ownership, property ownership is something that has really been at the forefront of our mind. I think it was something that we knew in 2017 that we were going to have to start working towards. We always knew that there was going to have to be some way that Black folks start owning things in the neighborhood in order for us to actually stay there, right? And so what keeps me up at night is, when are they going to finally announce that the LRT is finished? Because, once that settles, once the dust settles on that, now we're talking about the big money being like, okay, we're investing, we're coming in, this neighborhood is, we can clean it up, the transit line's there, it's a great connector. And so that's kind of what keeps me up is let's get our Black folks together now. Let's get this community organizing going so that we can now be power brokers in the situation. I also want to point out that there are also a couple of Black property owners in the neighborhood right now, which again is just speaks to the incredible nature, like just, the incredible folks that we're dealing with already. So there's already some Black property owners, and we want to be able to start adding to that list of it being Little Jamaica is a neighborhood owned by Black folks. That's really the goal. And so that's really what keeps me up at night. That's what keeps me motivated and passionate, because I would love to, we were just talking about the fact that I have a young son, he's 1 year old. I want him to grow up in a city that I grew up in, right? I want to be able him to see cultures, mom and pop shops, culturally relevant services, and if that means your hair care, if that's your food, if that's your music, your art. I want him to grow up in environments where culture is present as soon as he walks outside. And the only way that we can do that, and unfortunately in these times, and especially in the city of Toronto, is you have to be willing to fight for that. You have to be willing to stand up and be like, these are the things that are important to me. I don't want, super shiny buildings. That's not what I'm interested in, right? I want places that, my son can grow up in and feel that he belongs, that, there's always a place for him in the city, where he feels represented by face, and by culture. And that's the type of city I grew up in. Like, we grew up at Jane and Weston, so like the Weston Mount Dennis community. And most of the people that I grew up with were Black folks. Like, that was like in our general community, in the schools that I went to. And that played a huge impact on how I feel about myself as a Black woman. And just even this, how strongly I feel about this and how strongly I feel about, amplifying and empowering Black communities. That is, in essence, because of the way that I was raised and the type of childhood that I had. And so, yeah, I really just want for that to be, how we move forward is, getting our Black folks together, owning properties on Eglinton so we can start really, we can be a part of great development. Like, again, transit development is incredible, redeveloping areas, cleaning up the streets, fixing the roads, stuff like that is incredible. That's exactly what we've been looking for. I think the problem comes in with the displacement and the cultural erasure, right? Those things don't get talked about enough. And so in that sense, we want to make sure that we can stay here and be able to reap the benefits of redevelopment, of transit infrastructure. And yeah, I think that's, yeah.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. And I couldn't agree more. When you think about the gentrification that occurs, that's usually a veneer of what they call revitalization. And when you think about just like you said, people being displaced, which sometimes causes huge issues that are intergenerational in terms of trauma, there needs to be work. And when you think about the opportunities in terms of infrastructure development and social procurement and home ownership and business ownership and social acquisitions and succession planning, the list goes on. And all these things are the pillars of a vibrant, thriving community. So once again, I just appreciate your leadership, the visionary leadership of you and your colleagues. So my next question, what challenges and barriers are you and your colleagues facing? And what are some of the approaches you're taking to overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think that some of the challenges that we're going through is, I think, just trying to figure out the best way to approach these concepts with folks. I think even like recently I went to a community land trust conference, right? And so they're explaining, different aspects of community land trust and community ownership. And I was just like, I'm gonna need to do it. I'm gonna have to do some more research on this. Like, I'm gonna have to watch a couple of YouTube videos. It's a very interesting, complex conversation to have. And so I think what we really want to figure out is what is the best way that we can package this information, not only just for, our general membership of people that we work with now, but also being able to tap into youth populations. I think I'm such a big advocate for that, for including young people in every single aspect of the work that you do, because otherwise it's probably not going to be sustainable. We can't talk about doing things 20, 30 years from now without having included those young people's voices and their insights and their visions as well. And so we really want to think through strategically, how do we want to package this information so people can best receive it, like retain it in their minds, and then be able to actualize it and activate it. And I think this is kind of ongoing work for us because, Black communities are not a monolith. Everybody is very different in the way that they think, different places that they're coming from in their life, to the work that we're doing. And so we really just want to find the best way to really reach people the way that they need to be reached in order to include them in this larger conversation. And I think, another challenge really is, what does community ownership actually look like, on a legal basis, on a social basis, on a cultural basis? What is that going to mean? How are we really going to ensure that it's Black communities at the center of community ownership? We really need to think through that really strategically. And so I think those are some of our challenges, but I think it's something that we work through, like as we do the work and as we go along with it. Every single community consultation or survey that we do, canvassing, one-on-ones, where we talk to folks, we learn something new and we learn something different, And so I think while those things are challenges, it also helps us all grow, because even if this, we could pioneer this, we could pilot this, and it could fall flat for a couple of years, right? But everything is a learning process. We're going to be learning from every single mistake, misstep, miscommunication. We learn from it all, and we're willing to grow and grow better, elevate, be a part of the evolution of the work that we're doing. And so, yeah, I would say that there are challenges, but also lessons, which, you know, it's also good.
That's beautiful. So my second last question, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
Wow, great question. Um, Success for us would be Black folks owning property in Little Jamaica. I think that's like a full stop. I think once we're able to really own things, it helps us be able to place make ourselves and really secure the space that we're in. I think right now, Little Jamaica is a huge conversation. So don't get me wrong, it'll still be hard for developers or anybody coming into the neighborhood to just bypass and overlook Little Jamaica the way that it was, when we're talking Metrolinks and the transit construction. That's not really a conversation anymore, right? Folks are really invested in our communities, whether or not that's the Little Jamaica initiative going on Eglinton, again, like I was saying, so many Black business owners, not even just, working within their businesses and, trying to get their products out, but also trying to keep that alive. Like if you go to the New York Eglinton BIA, shout out to those guys over there. They're a bunch of Black people, right? And that wasn't the case before. And so, like I was saying, while it will still be hard for developers or anybody coming into the neighborhood to like bypass Black communities, I think it's really important for us to set precedent that redevelopment has to occur with us involved, and then with us owning things and being able to really secure our space there. This is transit construction and redevelopment is happening in every single Black community in the city. That's just a reality that we have to face. There's some sort of construction happening in neighborhoods that are densely populated with Black people. And so we see this really more so as a starting point, as a beginning conversation to a lot of, Black community ownership that we want to see. And so while of course we want success for Little Jamaica, I think we also want this to, kind of be something that other people can observe, to start activating in other Black communities, because that's really the goal, is for Black communities in general. And I think beyond our land trust, this is what Budo believes in, and this is our mission ultimately, is that Black communities in general across the country, we need to start owning things, and we need to start being, power brokers in the neighborhoods that we've lived in and that we've made popular, that we have, made a place to be in the city. And so I think that's what success looks like for us. And I think just like, Black folks getting more together and working together, that I think that's a huge success for us. Being able for us to get together and grow towards our own goals, I think that would be the cherry on top.
Fam, I swear you are inspiring me. I wish I could have pulled my daughters into the room to hear the work that's being done in terms of, yeah, I think there's a legacy piece in terms of our ancestors and our elders whose shoulders we stand on. There was always been Black communities. Like I remember Marcus Garvey's last speech that he gave alive was in Toronto on Bathurst. I remember my wife and I, when we bought our first house in Toronto, we were the very last customers of the Ashanti Room. The Ashanti Room is a beautiful, beautiful Afrocentric store on Bathurst that closed down. And this is 15, 18 years ago on Bathurst. And I was there for years when Third World Bookstore closed down. Look at when Randy's Patties closed down. So there's a legacy of entrepreneurship, but there isn't a legacy of acquisitions or social acquisitions or community benefit agreements or social procurements or community land trusts. So I think what you're doing is visionary, impactful, innovative, and just brilliance. So I just applaud you and your colleagues. And I'd like to ask you, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
My only call to action, of course, is always come shop in Little Jamaica. Like there are so many things that you can buy in Little Jamaica. There are grocery stores. You can get your groceries in Little Jamaica. You can get your hair done in Little Jamaica. There are braiders. There are, locticians. There's barbers. You can come by Treasure Isle. You can come by Nia Center. There's so many things going on in Little Jamaica. There's so many things going on in Eglinton that you can support, that you can be a part of. And I think not only that, you can really help be a part of thriving Black ecosystems, Black cultural enclaves. Like come and be a part of that. I think there's going to be a lot of things going on this summer. Of course, there's a number of festivals that are going to be taking place, little pop-up events. This summer, like when you're thinking, what am I going to do with my family today? Come to Little Jamaica. Come on over, have your cash ready and be ready to spend some money, honestly. And that's really what I would say. I think that's the biggest call to action. And then, of course, we're going to be launching the Little Jamaica Community Land Trust at the end of this month. I don't know when this is going to come out, but regardless, we'll be live streaming it. So you can go and check out the recorded video if this comes out after. But stay connected with us. You can follow us on Black Urbanism TO. That's on our Instagram, our LinkedIn. Our TikTok is Buto, BUTO 2018. And then you can also send us an email, buto@blackurbanismto.com. And I think that's really it, honestly. Just my last thing is always just come to Little Jamaica. Like that'll make my heart warm.
Ashe, Madasi Papa. Thank you so much, our beloved sister, for your tenacity, your leadership, your resilience, and the self-determination of you and your colleagues. And as always, at Setsi, we close this conversation, this interview, the way it began, by giving thanks to our creator, by giving thanks to the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, fam. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Victor.